Man, this episode was an absolute ride. I mean, last week in the comments section, I had a couple of different people point out the fact that, I believe it's in the opening, Riko has her hair cut a lot shorter. So in the middle of bartering for Nanachi, potentially Midi, maybe the hair would be the key. And I thought to myself, yeah, maybe if she gave her hair, maybe like an arm, maybe that would be enough value. But I wasn't expecting the hair to not be a trade for this creature, but rather for someone who, I think if you look at the start of this arc, I don't remember seeing many praises from anyone fresh to this arc for this weird serpent-like creature that I was convinced was going to sell our arms and legs for these characters without a second guess, would end up getting powered up to be the best scooter, motorcycle, whatever you want to call this thing, as it unexpectedly kind of became best bro as it saves the day, as Riko probably had her biggest moment today of being the most useful, the most badass, and the most, honestly, the one driving the show this time. She was scooting around, she was the reason this thing ultimately was able to be defeated. Not only did she collect her whistle, which in return, I mean, seeing our boy just, at first I was like, wait a minute, I was like, am I just misremembering? Does he always look like that? Like, it looks like his colors are off, but I was like, hey, maybe I'm just tired, maybe I'm sleep deprived, maybe that's what's going on, but no, he definitely was changed, and it was kind of crazy to see the true potential of these whistles as he lands kind of like that finishing blow on this nest, which was such a creative design for a creature, the whole idea of almost like a queen bee situation, where by themselves they're pretty much nothing. They're just like little worms that might bite you, that might nip you, but not going to be too much. But together they create such a crazy ass nest that is just, as we saw, this village nearly got destroyed. And had these characters not been here, I'm pretty sure the village wouldn't be there anymore. It really felt that way. But I mean, just to see like the progression of what was going on, you don't end an episode with like saying, hey, give me some organs, give me your legs, give me your eyes, without there being something that can one-up that if you don't commit to one of those. And I wasn't sure exactly what they were going to do when they initially left. I was like, maybe it's going to be Vuko, like maybe that will be the key, like maybe she'll like sacrifice herself, maybe that will be the big shocker. And then to see a moment, which I still think back to the first time Ma grabbed and just, the whole like squishing rip scene, and then the fact that it happened to Ma, and we're like, shit man, I know this creature was a little crazy, but I don't want to see this thing get violated in that way. To go from such a visceral rage to Ma to kind of like a pity sorrow because he didn't want to see it get ripped apart just because, he kind of felt like it was slow, it didn't exactly know what it was doing, to then seeing it redeem itself when it's being taken away to seemingly its death. It throws the thing that we started it out as. The first moment we saw really of this creature was it taking and squishing, and instead of holding on to it, which kind of felt like the comfort animal in that situation, gave it back to Riko so it wouldn't be killed too. What a redemption I wasn't expecting, and I was fully convinced everything was just dead there. And to see the badassery, it's crazy how this arc in general has been playing with emotions, and I'm not sure if I'm the only one feeling it, but with the way this episode was directed, to me, it almost feels like the second or third last episode of an anime season, or an anime arc. But we're only episode 6 into this core. And to me, that's kind of exciting, but honestly a little more fearful than normal, because what we just experienced would typically be like one of the last hurrahs before they deal with their obstacle and things work out. And they decide to end this episode with Storytime. Now, normally Storytime's not the worst thing ever. In fact, you would say that's kind of the peaceful moment of an episode. But no, Storytime feels like what we're about to learn is truly going to make it impossible to ever go back to whatever their normal was. And I'm not sure what that's going to look like, because I think we all had a pretty different idea of what this episode would look like, and it went 10 times crazier than I think we possibly predicted. The luring was absolutely just nutty. I wasn't expecting something that was so giant, that looked like it was almost like the protector of this village, to nearly get destroyed by a glob. And I was like, man, this blob looking monster over here, yeah, it's big, but come on, it's jelly. Just eat the damn thing, right? It's just eating a big serving of Jello. And no, it was absolutely just, it felt like when it was actually attacking people, it was like acid burning them to essentially nothing. Making Abyss is so damn creative when it comes to its horror, because when you look at the general lighting or the general aesthetic of this village, it's not something you would associate with horror normally. There's some weird looking monsters. It's a little unnatural, I'll give you that, but it's not what you associate with it's the back alley slasher, or it's the monster that comes from the lake in the dead night. But the way they use such a vibrant and beautiful looking world and just distort it in such a creepy way, which can turn outright just horrifying, is remarkable. Like, I really can't gush enough about how good this season of Made in Abyss is. I was pretty damn confident walking into this anime season that this would be one of my favorite anime of the year, potentially even my anime of the year, depending on how it goes. Especially after rewatching the movie. I mean, I was just like, this series just gets better. I've heard nothing but good things about this Golden City, if not worrying things about this Golden City, but you kind of get my point. And now being halfway through this season of anime here, and just this show in particular, I think to myself, if this isn't my anime this season, I'm just wondering what could top it for me at this point. And I'm really excited to see what they do, because Made in Abyss has definitely become one of my favorite anime that have come out in quite a while here. And seriously, I mean, I've never disliked Riko as a character. I've never disliked any of the central characters. But in Season 1, the world was more the thing that held me there, and I thought it was interesting watching the world basically project itself on these innocent-looking characters, and the movie is what really started to make me say, I really want these characters to survive. This arc in particular has made Riko go from more of a background, kind of the character that gets saved, to more of the one leading the show and potentially doing the saving more than we're used to. And that does wonder for characterization. I do hope kind of with that backstory that we're kind of being set up as, I wouldn't mind in the slightest if it was an entire episode dedicated to the group of adventurers that have turned into whatever you want to call this village. A lot of them are probably dead, a lot of them we've already seen in these new forms. I think if next week does go the route of being mostly flashback, it could do wonders to really put into place the disconnect of where they started to where they are now, and it could fill in a lot of those blanks. But on the other side, I'm kind of thinking of what if they only tease a bit of it and we don't know the full picture until like the second or maybe even the last episode of the season. There's two different ways they could go about that. Either next week comes around and really reveals everything, or they sprinkle it throughout the rest of the season, which could be a good breadcrumb level trail that would maybe make it a bit more mysterious rather than just dropping it all at once. Either one that they decide to go with will work, but it's kind of fun thinking about the different possibilities and how we'll look at the rest of the season depending on which one of those they decide to pull, you know what I'm saying? Absolutely remarkable episode. Just when you think you can't love and fear the show more than you already do, an episode like The Luring comes around and it definitely proves us wrong. But I'd love to know everyone's thoughts and feelings. What did you think of the horror, the optimism, the cliffhanger? There's so much to dissect, but let me know what you're feeling down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new around here. Till next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.